Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's meeting of Wormwood Scrubs Charitable Trust. My name is Councillor Alex Sanderson, and I am the chair of the committee. Before we start, we're all very well rehearsed in this, but can we do the standard housekeeping points? So please keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking. Please wait until I call on you before speaking. And could everybody introduce themselves when they first start speaking in the meeting so we all know who we all are? Thank you very much. Item 1, apologies for absence, none received. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? We never normally do. Lovely, great, let's crack on then. Minutes of the previous meeting. Any matters arising from the previous meeting or issues with the minutes that anyone would like to raise now? Wonderful. Matters arising? Oh, yeah.
Could I just ask for confirmation, because I can't find it in the minutes, from Osama that it is intended to replant the hedge that was removed between the Kensington Dragon works on the north side of those works and the children's playground there?
Yes, thank you, Sir Stephen. My name is Osama El Amin, and I am the manager to the Wormwood Scrubs Charitable Trust. Very pleased to see everybody on camera this evening. I can confirm, yes, that we have budgeted for that mitigation for next year. So once the works are completed, we'll plant another hedge on that boundary, and it'll act as a kind of natural barrier to where the new fence line will be erected, delineating the kind of outer edge of the Linford Christie pitch.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you very much, and I apologise for not introducing myself. Stephen Whaley-Cohen, co-opted member and chair of the trustees of the Friends of Wormwood Scrubs.
Lovely, thank you. I was about to ask you to introduce yourself, so you beat me to the punch. Thank you. All right, minutes approved otherwise? Please nod enthusiastically. Lovely, great. Item 4, manager's report. Salma, I think I'm coming to you to introduce the report and then going straight to Nick for the auditor.
Thank you very much, Chair. We have a number of items this evening, so I'm going to hand over to Nick to talk us through the appointment of the auditors. So over to you, please, Nick.
Thank you, Osama. Just to introduce myself, I'm Nick Falcone, and I'm a senior accountant at Hammersmith Fulham Council. So this first item is around the appointment of the auditors for 24-25, asking the committee to approve MHA as the Trust's external auditor for the 24-25 financial year, as well as their proposed fee of £11,700 plus VAT. The fee is only a modest increase of £200 more than the 2023-24 fee. So that works out about 1.7% increase. And there is the advantage that there are good working relationships in place already with council staff, and they have a strong understanding of the Trust's accounts since they have been the auditor since the 2019-20 financial year. So the plan for the audit itself would for that to be conducted around October-November time, so that the audited accounts can be taken to the December 2025 committee meeting. So I guess that's it really. So just asking if the committee is happy to approve that, or if there are any questions, of course, as well.
Thank you. Just to say, I'm delighted that the increase is so low, given auditors' fees spiralling all over the place, seemingly absolutely everywhere else. So well done for managing to negotiate to keep that so low. Councillor Stanton, and could you introduce yourself to the committee as well?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Councillor Dominic Stanton. I am. How do I introduce myself? I sit on the chair of one of the trustees of the Scrubs. I'm a councillor in Munster Ward in Fulham. I have a very brief question. Sorry?
Do you favourite ice cream or something if you'd like to add on to give it some more?
Almond raisin.
Oh, nice choice. Lovely. Okay, maybe we should all do this. Great.
Oh, that might put me off. Nick, thank you. I have a very, very brief question, really, and it's not really with regards to the reappointment of the auditors, which I'm in favour of. But I just really wanted to understand the process for considering whether auditors should be reappointed or otherwise. I mean, do you look periodically for competitive tenders, or is it if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
Okay, that's a good question. So, I mean, I suppose, yeah, the latter is probably fair reflection to a certain extent. We are supposed to retender every 10 years. So I guess we are getting towards, I think we're about 6 years in. So it's something we obviously will have to do then. But, we are happy with our current auditors, and I guess that's why we're hoping to reappoint them.
Thank you. We did do a comprehensive. Oh, Councillor Stanton is now the host, so we may have lost someone hosting as well. So fine, if we have any glitches, apologies. But Dom, you've got all the power in this meeting now.
Excellent.
The Rum and Raisin Brigade have appointed you the chair of the meeting. So we did do an extensive re-procurement exercise, I think about 6 years ago. Certainly I was on the committee then looking at auditors, and MHA did come up, I think, quite significantly ahead of everyone else. It has been a competitive rate given the costs elsewhere, and I think we have been broadly happy with the work. So it's slightly, we certainly haven't been driven to go for an early re-procurement.
Sure. But there was absolutely no criticism meant with the question whatsoever. It was really just we need to make sure we're getting the best value for money. And I was just curious as to what the process was.
It feels relatively, so with my hat on, my day job hat on charity CEO, it's actually pretty cheap for the size and complexity, given our re-procurement we've just had to do, which is horribly expensive. But I'm sure we are being ruthlessly financially efficient about making sure that we are getting good value from the input. Thank you. Any other questions on the audit, or are we happy to approve the auditors?
Happy to approve.
Lovely. Great. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And Nick, are you staying with us this evening, or are you now free to enjoy the rest of your night?
I'll listen in. Yeah, I'll listen in.
Thrilled to have you.
You might get ice cream.
Yeah, have some. Ooh, maybe I will. I do this for corporate parenting board. Maybe we should do a fun icebreaker in a way that everyone is going to loathe me for by the end of the day. Right, item 2. Vicky, can I come to you, please, for the HS?
Yep, thank you, Chair. My name's Vicky Abel, and I'm the Wormwood Scrubs Development Manager. So item 2 is an update on the AEM Master Plan procurement. So to update committee on progress made on the procurement of the Master Plan work so far, progress has been made in that 4 out of the 5 main tender documents have been finalised. However, it was decided that 2 contracts were needed for each phase of the work, the capital work and the management and maintenance plan work, which meant that 2 new contracts had to be drafted, a JCT contract for the capital work and a high value contract for the management and maintenance plan. This meant that not all the documents were ready by the 24th of February, which was the day when new procurement regulations were brought in, and any tenders not submitted by that date needed to be amended to reflect the new regulations. Those regulations require a new invitation to tender document, which is the ITT, which is more comprehensive than the previous version had been and involves additional steps to be completed as part of the procurement process. The new ITT template is not yet available, but is expected to be finalised by the end of March. Once it's completed, it will be uploaded to the Capital e-sourcing portal along with the other tender documents and contracts already completed, ready for the tender to go live. The overall procurement timetable is likely to take longer than the 9 months initially stated, as additional activities have been included. However, we can start with the pre-market engagement, which is a new step in the process to let potential contractors know about the tender, and so that we can gauge the level of interest in it. So that's the update, and I can take any questions about that.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Stanton first.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicky. 2 two questions. The first, how much did we miss the deadline by?
We missed it by about a week.
Given the years we've had, that's unfortunate. And I mean, unless I've misunderstood the report, that's disappointing to hear, to be honest.
It is, but overall, it's probably only a 5 to 6 week delay. If we get the ITT back at the end of March, then we can take. That's the only document that's still left to complete. Everything else, the other 4 volumes, have all been completed, so they're ready to go. So as soon as we get that ITT template, I can switch over the information from the old version to the new version, and I'm hoping it shouldn't take that long.
Great, that's great. My other question is, I think it's to you, Vicky. Where are we at with planning now?
Well, so we're not going for planning permission anymore, because when we submitted the planning application, it attracted a number of objections, one of them being from Sport England and their statutory consultee. So that then meant that the application would go to the Secretary of State to determine. So instead of going down that route, which the timescale for that was a bit unknown, it could take, I don't know, 6 months, it could take over a year. So instead of going down that route, we reduced the scope of the work in the master plan. So we took the pond and the borehole out.
I think sorry, if I may, Vicky, I think the issue was not even so much the length of time. It was that we were given quite indication it just wouldn't be successful at all. And it felt like a waste of time and resource to go for that journey. The OPDC had also indicated that they wanted to see various things on the scrubs that we didn't necessarily agree with. So things like access to HS2, so the East West Park going across the top of the scrubs, which we are not very comfortable with, because obviously we want the HS2 station designed to think about access as opposed to us having people walking across the scrubs, which not only would put in a path even far bigger than the ones that I dream of, but also wouldn't feel very safe. I certainly wouldn't use I wouldn't use a path on the scrubs at night in the dark to try and get to the station. So it was really, there are various reasons why this has been reduced, and we're thinking again about different aspects of the master plan.
Okay, apologies if I've missed an email about that. I was away for most of February, so I.
It was at the last committee. We had a brief discussion on it there.
Yeah, I didn't realise it had been actually finalised. I find, as it says in the minutes, we agreed to effectively note the changes rather than approving them. So I was wondering when it had gone that further stage. I can read you the line.
Chair, if I could come in.
Absolutely.
Yes, good evening. Mark Raisbeck, Director of Public Realm. I think looking at the minutes from the last meeting, we did highlight that it is worthwhile moving ahead with the elements of the scheme we could move ahead with as a first stage, but we would continue to pursue those elements which were a challenge for us through the planning process. And in order not to delay the main element of the scheme, we would continue to drive that forward, which is what we are doing. But we also noted the committee's frustration that we weren't able to fulfil the whole master plan, but we certainly haven't given up on the whole master plan. We will continue to look at how we could take the rest of the master plan forward as well.
So is that still the case? Because that wasn't really what I was hearing.
Certainly this bit of work that Vicky is doing is taking forward the bits that have been agreed, which were not subject to planning, as the chair has said. So this is the first stage, but we obviously have got every reason to continue looking at the other elements of the scheme that were subject to planning. But that's not part of this contract at this stage. We would have to come back to that at a future time that we deem is the right time to start looking at that again.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, obviously thoroughly developments. I'm sure the committee will be kept up to date. So yeah, that's great. That's all my questions for now, Chair.
Thank you. And it was incredibly frustrating from the OPDC. I think that's probably fine.
No, I'm sure. And again, criticism is not intended when I ask these questions. I'm just trying to understand exactly where we're at.
Oh, none taken, none taken. It was just it is obviously frustrating that this is up, and it's one of the issues of having the OPDC as a planning authority who don't really engage hugely with us in the way that we would hope that they would. But hopefully with a new chair, things will change. Faye.
Yes, Vicky, you mentioned the advanced procurement process? Could you expand on how that works? And would that be opened up to all existing contractors within LBHF's network?
And Faye, do you just want to say who you are?
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm Faye Thomas, Friends of the Scrubs and co-opted member.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a high value contract, so it's the most rigorous process of procurement that we do. And it will be an open tender. So the pre-market engagement step is a new step that's just been added in. So we'll go out to the market to tell them that this tender is coming in the next couple of weeks or whatever, to alert them to the fact that it's coming and give them a chance to ask any questions. So that's just like a bit of engagement before the actual tender goes live, so they're ready for it and they know that it's coming.
So what was the estimated date for the tender to go live?
Well, if we get the ITT back by the end of this month, then it should only take a week up to maximum 2 weeks to get that document finalized and upload all the documents. There's the 5 main volumes to upload, but then there's all the other technical drawings and plans. There's a series of those, which is about 20 of those, and then there's the specification and things like that. So it's just getting it all onto the system and then it goes live. So it should be a fairly quick process once we get into uploading all those documents and they're all finalized.
So is this like 2 months, 6 months, a year?
What, for the whole procurement process until we've got a contractor?
No, for the it going live to start.
I think in April. I think sometime in April it'll be live.
Great, thank you. Stephen.
Thank you. I share the frustration at the delays and very disappointed to learn that it's going to take at least 9 months from advertising to being able to select a contractor, but I realise that's outside this committee's control and these officers' control. I just wanted to clarify that while the OPDC planning process was frustrating for some, the Friends of the Scrubs formal objection to the scheme was in opposition to those parts which are, at least for the time being, not being pursued. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the major sticking point was Sports England in the end, which was the most frustrating because it felt a slightly reductionist view from Sports England to approach it, given the usage of the sports facilities could be so much more, or the provision could be so much more if we had a better plan for them than currently exists. But there we are. Fine. Item 3, co-producing access improvements on the open space. That leads us quite nicely onto that. Osama.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just off the back of Sir Stephen's comments, we have reduced the scale of footpath improvements that will be made on the scrubs, but we are thinking about it in more comprehensive terms, in terms of accessibility improvements in general. So we've begun working with the Council's Inclusive Environment Resident Disability Group to understand how these improvements can speak to the needs of disabled people. We've also identified and approached 50 different groups ranging from regular sports bookers to the Metropolitan Police Design Out Crime Team, to estate tenants, hospital staff and patients, and so on. So far, we've had quite a mixed range of views on the extent of formal footpaths. Anything that we will be proposing will be the formalisation of existing desire lines. We're not going to be creating anything new necessarily. So we've had various different bits of feedback, some very, very positive, others indicating a fear over a kind of rise in antisocial behaviour and the creation of some blind spots, which we're very receptive to. And as I say, the Metropolitan Police have been very well involved in this process so far. So in line with the master plan, some of the routes that we will be proposing will be of an operational necessity, and they'll be proposed in order to ensure the successful maintenance of some of the new ecological features that we that we introduce on the scrubs. In reference to the access audit that we conducted in 2024 and a recent green flag inspection, both of those documents highlighted the need of the play areas to have better accessibility, clearer footpaths, and kind of retaining year-round access. So those play areas are going to be of the highest priority in ensuring these access improvements are generated quickly. We've put a budget together for next year of roughly about £100,000 for 25-26 to facilitate these improvements. That isn't just a finite budget. We can obviously approach other trusts and foundations and other organisations who might be willing to support to create those access improvements. And we're continuing to engage and procure feedback with a number of different stakeholders at the moment, hoping to get some proposals together to hopefully share with committee in 2025. And I think it's also just important to remember that it isn't just footpaths, it's also the signage on the scrubs, which will indicate the new designation that we're hoping to sign off very quickly for the local nature reserve, as well as the various other improvements that we're making to Linford Christie, to the car park, etc.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Great. It's obviously very comprehensive. Thank you, Osama. Lovely. Okay. Grounds maintenance performance. Back to you, Osama, for quarter 4 update.
Thank you very much. So since the previous committee, the performance failures that we had recorded previously have largely been rectified. The only major outstanding item is the lack of scrub and bramble management undertaken in the first 2 years of the contract term. And we also have a few ongoing concerns about the quality of maintenance within the Linford Christie site. Now, we've agreed with ID Verdi and our on-site ecologist to increase the level of bramble clearance in the final 2 years of the contract term to compensate for the lack of work undertaken in the first 2 years. And obviously that will be guided by our ecologist, and it will be done with the utmost care for the habitats that we are developing and that we look to enhance. Since the Linford Christie site is undergoing quite a considerable amount of work, the area of space to be maintained on the contract has temporarily reduced, which means that we've sort of given ID Verdi more space to focus on the horticultural, amenity and sports features, which kind of they make the other parts of the scrubs which are there to be maintained in that grounds maintenance contract. So we should see an improved level of performance there, along with the sort of daily cleansing practices, daily litter picking, and daily rubbish clearance. We see in Q1 for next year, we'll see all the lines on the sports pitches marked once a week. The grass will be cut once a month, and we'll have preparations for summer sports underway. We also have a number of eco-volunteering activities which will be happening in Q1, and these include dead hedging, forest school maintenance, selective thinning of the saplings in the woodland, group habitat survey sessions, and a really exciting piece of information is that I just got confirmation today that we've managed to secure David Lindo, who is the urban birder, he calls himself, to conduct some guided bird watching sessions on the scrubs. So David is very, very well known. He's a broadcaster, writer, public speaker, and we've managed to secure him for 4 sessions across the different seasons that we'll see on the scrubs. So really excited to see that happening next year.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Very exciting update. Any comments or questions? Oh, okay.
Hello, yeah, brief one. Will the sessions with David Lindo be advertised anywhere in particular from LBHF? Or...
Yeah, absolutely. So just got confirmation today. So I'm just going to be putting together some promo materials with the comms team. I think he can only take a maximum of 20 per group. So we will have to kind of perhaps on a first come, first serve basis, but we'll definitely be communicating it to the friends and yeah, thinking about having a range of different attendees. Yeah, I think we do have quite a kind of stock number of very, very keen bird watchers on the scrubs, who I'm sure would be really, really, really keen to get involved. And I'm sure, you know, if we managed to keep David on side, that we could procure some more sessions for perhaps the next year. But yeah, you'll hear more information once we've got the promo materials ready.
Yeah, thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Great. Okay, related to Simon, slightly less cheery news about the grounds maintenance. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name's Simon Ingham. I'm Head of Parks and Open Spaces for the Borough and Lead Officer for the Wormwood Scrubs Charitable Trust. Item 5 considers a grounds maintenance contract fee and an increase that we're seeking for approval from the committee. ID Verdi deliver 3 lots across the borough relating to parks, highways and cemeteries, housing, and the 3rd lot is maintaining Wormwood Scrubs. However, since the contract started, there's been sustained inflationary pressure felt by ID Verdi, and this has limited some of the works that they've been able to deliver. You committee members may recall that back in year 2 of the contract that we sought a slight increase where we shared some of the pain with ID Verdi and a below inflation increase, but a contribution of 3.5% uplift was added to all of the 3 contract lots with ID Verdi in year 2. Inflation has continued since that time, and this has gone above and beyond the risk element that ID Verdi built into their contract bid. So we're seeking on this basis to ask for an increase for years 3 of 6% and 2.96% for year 4 for the remaining years of the contract, and for these increases to be consolidated. This is the same that we've done already across lots 2 and lots 1 within the park service and also the housing service, and we're asking that lot 3 managed by Wormwood Scrubs falls into line, and then we will hope to see an improved performance for the remaining 2 years of the contract. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Simon. Any comments, questions? Councillor Stanton.
Thank you. I think I'm right in saying that the general area that ID Verdi are working on at the moment is reduced. Sama, can you confirm that?
It's only, sorry, Councillor Stanton. It's slightly reduced in Linford Christie for the months whilst we're doing the capital works. So we want them to consolidate other areas of Linford Christie where they have perhaps not performed to the standards that we would expect. The maintenance that will be brought in as part of the capital works that Vicky was talking about earlier, as you've heard, will not be coming on board for another 9 months at least. And that's the start of the capital works. And then the maintenance of those ecological works probably won't start until the end of those capital works. So we still need ID Verdi to deliver the full contract and specification that they signed up to. It was a no inflation increase contract that the council let due to being ruthlessly financially efficient, and that obviously we didn't anticipate, nor did ID Verdi build in sufficient risk to deal with the superinflation that the contract suffered 2 years ago and has gradually been fortunately reducing over the last year of the contract. So they have done well on the Scrubs, and it's probably the best performing lot. It is also the smallest lot of the 3 contracts that they have with the council.
I'm not sure quite what the relevance of the size of the lot is, given they're being paid less. So, given that inflation is currently at about 3.5%, how is double that figure? How has that been arrived at?
It's effectively backdating it. So the request has been in since year 2 from ID Verdi, and the council have been considering it over that period. At the same time, they haven't performed necessarily as well as we would have liked for a period of about 6 months in parks. They improved in parks, but the area in housing went down. So that's why we want a coordinated approach across all 3 lots to give them some finance for, consolidate that increase for the final 2 years that they wanted last year. So that's a 6% increase based on the inflation that was in year 2 and 3. And then we want the inflation at 3% for the remaining 2 years. Yeah, so the contract fee keeps track with inflation, which it didn't allow for in the first place.
No, that's because they came in cheap to get the job. And then in the way the builders do, they say it was an estimate, not a quote. And we end up paying more than we agreed to pay.
I think that, so whilst that is true, I think whilst I'm trying to not be overtly political, but obviously when this came in as a no inflation contract, at that point inflation was sub 2%, often a bit lower. I think if it had tracked inflation, we would be paying significantly more than we are now or would have paid. I think obviously none of us had anticipated quite the rise in interest rates that cost the council several million over the past few years. And whilst things are returning, there is a significant lag in costs and inflation that are having a knock on. We are happy with the performance on the scrubs. It's not completely where we'd like it to be, but it's certainly better than many of the others. And the kind of conversation I had was that it felt that as though if we didn't agree to an inflationary uptick, the service would just deteriorate and decline anyway. So that was sort of kind of, it felt worth it given that we had managed to avoid having an inflationary linked contract. Mark, do you want to come in on this? And then I'm going to go to Councillor Kwan.
Yes, thank you. Just to add a little bit more detail, I mean, certainly we would accept it. It's a very unsatisfactory situation which we are in, and we've had to take a decision balanced against the need to recognise we want to maintain our parks and open spaces in the right condition, whilst at the same time wanting to hold ID Verde to account. We have looked at all the options, and it would have been extremely disruptive to have retendered, and that could have been an option. But we also would have been confident if we had retendered, given the inflation that's happened, we would have ended up with a significant increase in costs, which are way above what we're actually now suggesting paying. So the least disruptive and the best way out of the current situation is considered to be to recognise that we do give ID Verde some increase, and that increase has been calculated by looking at the actual wage inflation which has been affected on the contract through things like the London minimum wage, for example, which is about 70% of the contract value, plus the other general inflationary costs, and then deducting the inflation which they've already assumed on the contract from that. So that's where we get the 6% and 2.96% figures, because we've calculated the impact of inflation on the contract and deducted their assumptions from it. We have then, as I say, sort of looked at the options. If we had retendered, we would have been paying a lot more, but we are looking at the strategy at the moment of not extending their contract, which we could do beyond year 5, but retendering. And that is something which is subject to a strategy report, which will be coming to political cabinet and then cabinet in the next month or two, as we look at the strategy for this as part of a wider series of contracts across public realm. So I'd agree, Councillor Stanton, that it's certainly far from satisfactory, but I think it is the right and the best way out of it. I would also just add that these increases will be withheld if they don't perform, and that's part of the agreement we're going to have with them, and Simon is putting the details together at the moment. So, for example, if they do not deliver the basic services we're looking for, then we'll withhold all increases that have been provided above contract level. So there's quite a significant incentive on them to perform and continue to deliver for the remainder of the contract, which we do know, and we have seen information to confirm to us that they are under significant financial pressure on the contract. And I know that's not a reason in itself, but it's about trying to get the right behaviours from the contractor to make sure that we do still deliver a good service across all of our parks and open spaces.
Thank you. It appears that we're rewarding failure, because in all the time I've heard reports of ID Verde, I've rarely heard anything other than, well, they're okay. Actually, they're failing elsewhere, but they're not failing here as badly as they are in the other 2 lots. And given that this has been approved across all 3 lots, as I understand it, I'm just somewhat astonished at that, really.
Well, if I could just sort of add, I suppose, just a little bit of a reflection in terms of the general, the lot one, which is the general parks and open spaces. We have seen a significant improvement from ID Verdi, given the process we followed last year, which is penalising them if they weren't delivering and only paying them if they did deliver. And that did help us to retain our 21 green flags, and also saw a significant uplift in the park satisfaction surveys that we conducted with users. So there have been notable increases. Housing have had some poor performance, and they are now following the line that we've taken, which is to ensure that they are, ID Verdi understand that they will be only receive any additional benefits if they actually deliver on the contract. And we've seen that that does get the right incentive for them. The difficulty is if we don't do this, that we are just concerned that given that they're losing money on this contract fundamentally, that we'll continue to see the service suffer, and we will have, a very unsatisfactory situation to manage. So it is a difficult balance. The last thing we want to be seen to be doing is to reward contractors for getting their contract wrong. But I think, there is a particularly unusual situation here with this being a zero inflation contract. I think one of the only ones the council have actually got. And there has been some hyperinflation over the last couple of years, which has been far in excess of what they'd anticipated and what anybody probably could have anticipated. So we're having to be sort of sensitive to that. But as I say, at the same time, we're not just giving them without conditions. We are putting conditions on it and tying it to delivery.
Thank you. Can I just ask how many times in the year are the targets checked for payment? Is it just once at the end of the year, or is it monthly, quarterly, or?
We are monitoring it monthly, and we log points as part of the sort of default mechanism. And if they exceed a certain level of default points, if you like, then we will withhold payment, subject to them rectifying all of the issues.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. No, good questions. Councillor Corn.
This is probably a follow-on from Councillor Stanton's questions. Simon or Mark, could you possibly comment on how the increase compares to other contracts that we have with other contracts? I appreciate that obviously sometimes the service provided isn't comparable, so it's not like for like, but I just want to know whether that the numbers we're looking at is a pressure that a lot of our contractors are feeling, sort of because of inflationary and wider economic conditions.
I would say that because this was a zero inflation contract, they were feeling a lot more pressure than any other contractor, because whilst I would say probably other contracts don't always fully reflect the extent of inflation that's been experienced in the last couple of years, there has been some uplift, where with this contract there has been technically none. And so that has added to the pressure considerably. And this contract is also, given the nature of this contract, which about 70% of the cost is labour, so it is therefore very sensitive to annual increases in London living wage, which you'd be aware has gone up quite considerably, as well as the and they're also absorbing the national insurance increases, which we're not paying them any extra for as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, is this approved by committee?
Yes, for me.
Nodding, great, lovely. Wonderful. Whilst we're on approvals, Osama, we're coming to you for resurfacing the multi-use games area behind the Old Oak Community Centre.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. In reviewing the management report, I noticed an error. The correct date of the deed of transfer was the 18th of May 2001, not 2021. And essentially that deed of transfer was the document which highlighted the extent of ownership over the multi-use games area and whether or not it's a Peabody asset or a trust asset. And so the fact that that facility was not included within the red line boundary, in effect, means it's still belonging to the trust. And so that's the carpet on the facility itself. It's had lots of fire damage. There's multiple tears. It's very, very well used. And the local children who go to Old Oak Primary School, they tend to finish school, head out onto the Muga, play football, have fun with their friends, and it's an open kind of open access facility. So very, very well used. And knowing that it's an open access facility, the last thing we want to do is kind of limit access. So we are proposing to committee to approve a £40,000 budget to resurface the multi-use games area. And we're also proposing that once we make those improvements, instead of kind of locking that off and treating it as a bookable sports asset, we will keep it open, but we will secure it with a padlock, and we'll keep it open to say 7 p.m. In the winter, 8 p.m. in the spring, 9 p.m. in the summer. And we can give the code to let officers, grounds maintenance staff, and the family hub staff as well. So this committee is just being asked to approve that 40k budget to make those improvements, secure the facility, and maintain the newly laid surface.
Thank you very much. Any questions? One. Is this approved? Great, lovely. Thank you very much. Carmen, thrillingly, we're now coming to you for the financial performance. Carmen, are you here? Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can, Chair. Carmen Lamoti, Finance Lead for Place Department at Parks and Leisure and Culture. So what I'm presenting is the forecast for this current year for 24-25, and then also for a budget approval, Chair, for 25-26. So the forecast for 24-25 is an actual 748,000 additional income, net surplus for 24-25. That's largely because a number of items have been deferred to 25-26, and correspondingly, when you see the budget, you'll see that although we've had this increase, the budget we're asking for a deficit budget for 25-26, but obviously net over the 2 years is a surplus. So the budget is the forecast outturn is for 679,000 compared to 69,228 surplus, a deficit, sorry. And then, as I said, mainly due to the items that are deferred. So I'll, Chair, if there's any questions on the outturn for this financial year, I can take those before the budget, Chair, if you wish.
Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask now? Fine, I think carry on, Carmen.
Okay, yeah, so the budget for 25-26 includes all approval items discussed tonight. So any items that are not, well, it's been approved so far, but if there were any items, the budget was set in anticipation of those being approved. So everything that we've discussed, the grounds maintenance, inflation, the work on the Muga, and everything is included in this budget. So I'm not sure if there's any questions on the budget, because Chair, because it was circulated before.
Any questions from anyone on the budget? Stephen?
Yes, a couple of questions, comments. They really arise from the rather small print notes towards the end of it on, I think, page 26.
Yes.
There's an item of £10,000 for improvements to the dog exercise area, where it says this item, it's the last item on 6A.
Yes.
It says this item requires consultation before it can be formally recommended. I would just like to say that quite a number of people think it's rather important that this is brought forward and progressed in the proper manner, of course, because there do continue to be some dog issues, despite the efforts of the LET, which we'll return to, if I may, when we get to their report. The second item is the second last item under 6B, other projects, which covers several items, but one of them is options appraisal for Park Lodge. We're concerned that in the options appraisal, the possibility of providing accommodation for what, for a shorthand, I'm calling park rangers, not be excluded from those options appraisals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Stanton.
Actually, sorry, no, can I wait for the answers to that and then I'll come back?
Fine, I think noted. Noted.
I do.
In which case, I just have two questions, which are related to inflation, really, and interest rates. Given that we're deferring expenditure by a year at least, has inflation been taken into account in the new figures for 25-26? And the second question is, one of the reasons we had a higher income this year was the interest rates, which are now dropping. And has that been taken into account, and what's that forecast to be for 25-26?
Yes, Chair.
Yep.
Yeah. So with, I'll take the second answer first. So with inflation, it is we have to reduce the actual inflation. So it has been a lot higher, and even though we're obviously going to have another 600 and odd more funds within the Treasury account, we have taken that into account. The interest rates have fallen, so the actual value of the inflation included, I'll just let you know exactly what that is. Yeah, so the forecast for inflation is 80,000, and that was the outturn for inflation was 85,000. So even though it should be more, if it were the interest rates were the same, so we've kept it at the same rate, even though we're going to have more funds, because inflation it's unpredictable of what it's going to be, but we're going to have more funds for the whole year, because how we calculate inflation, it's to do with the funds at the start of the year and the end of the year, but also we do take into account the funds of the council as well. So it's the trust benefits from the funds, the investment being as a whole for the council. So it's not just the actual, but even though it's apportioned for the balance of the trust funds, it takes into account the whole council's funds. So yes, it is less. So if it was on the same rate, it would have exceeded 100,000. So the forecast is 80.
Right, so the interest earned, rather than inflation, the interest earned is forecast to reduce, even though the balances are rising, because interest rates lowering will offset that.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to check that had come. So my second question was, if we're deferring capital expenditure and inflation is going up, has that been taken into account, and has an increase in the budgeted expenditure been put in?
Yes. So Osama can confirm this, and also Simon. So we've made sure that before we actually finalise the budgets, the forecasts and the quotes have all been taken into account, especially for Linford Christie Stadium and also for Kensington Dragons. So yes, those have all been taken into account. So before we finalised it, we've discussed that to make sure it does cover that.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Great. All right. Thank you. Is the 2025-2026 budget approved? Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Osama, this is a topic I know a lot of people will be very interested in. Final steps towards designating Wormwood Scrubs Meadow a local nature reserve.
Thank you very much, Chair. So in summary, we're almost there. The next step in the process is for the council legal team to seal the declaration. And once that's sealed, a public notice declaration will be advertised physically at Shepherd's Bush Library. That is due to be advertised on the 28th of March. That notice will be in place for a period of 4 weeks. If no major objections are received, then the final designation will be communicated to the trust and the council. And in line with the Access Improvement Scheme, funding to improve the signage in the meadow will also form part of the 25-26 budget, which we've already noted and approved. Given the fact that this has been going on for quite some time and we've been really looking forward to creating this designation, and obviously we have lots of other improvements happening on the scrubs, I've been asked by the ecology team to ask the committee whether we would like to have a big celebration event kind of towards the end of the summer once the capital improvement works at Linford Christie have been completed, the designation is sealed, and we have tendered for the master plan works. If we can kind of have a big celebration event to talk about what we've done on the scrubs and what people can look forward to.
Thank you very much. Lovely. Faye.
Yes, from my perspective, that sounds like a fun and engaging event. Can it be scheduled after bird nesting season? If so, which I think ends, sort of September, October kind of time. And also, will there be a budget for signage?
Yes. Sorry, Chair.
That's fine. There's definitely a budget for signage, and yes, much in the same way the dog should, but it also won't be right in the middle of the meadow.
Right. Okay. They'll be on the edge. Yes. Okay.
It's the same way the dog show is not in the middle of the meadow. Events will obviously be kept away from sensitive areas. So
Great.
thank you. Osama, did I?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so we'll have the community room facility, which will, I think, has already actually been installed. We just need to finalise the utility connections for that at Linford Christie. So that is a new facility that we can use for said sort of community events. We can base things from there, and yeah, obviously the last thing that we want to do is kind of trample across the meadow and yeah, reduce the quality of the habitats for ground nesting birds. So we can definitely have a think about that. And yeah, it's a big opportunity for us to think about the way that people engage with the space. We've put 100k in the budget for access improvements. That's broadly kind of split 50-50 paths and signage. It doesn't have to necessarily be treated that way. But we will be trying to raise more money as well next year to improve the signage on the scrubs. And part of that will involve improving the signage in the meadow. That combined with the movement mapping data that we have from Active Exchange is really the best that we can do for now, over and above having a park ranger on the scrubs who can literally be there to enforce as and when non-compliant dog walkers are doing their thing. That's kind of the best that we can do for now. So hopefully this designation combined with the other measures that the LET are taking will mean that we have kind of a bit of a change in behaviour, and we can ensure that the ground nesting birds and all the other migratory birds that use the meadow can really enjoy the habitats and make the most of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Great. So I'm staying with you for the strategic themes for the trust.
Thank you very much, Chair. So all of us officers have been spending a lot of time engaging with a number of different stakeholders to build a view of how the kind of changes in the neighbourhoods, what with roughly 20,000 new homes being built by the OPDC and the construction of the HS2 station, how all of these big changes in the local area are going to affect the way the scrubs is used, and how the spirit of the Act that was written in 1879, how that can be maintained. And so through going through that process, we've highlighted a number of different themes, some of which already speak to the Trust's charitable objectives, and others align more closely with the statutory obligations of those institutional stakeholders. And so we've identified a few themes. Now, these themes can act as a sort of anchor, a foundation for us to start thinking about a really clear set of objectives linked to a strategic business plan that I'm proposing that committee members work with officers to develop in tandem. And so those 5 themes are, firstly, ensuring sustainable access to recreation and exercise, which speaks directly to the Act, preserving and enhancing the ecology of Wormwood Scrubs, fostering health and educational outcomes through community engagement, improving facilities and maintaining assets, and delivering financial security. So this committee is asked to approve these strategic themes as a kind of first step towards building a more strategic long-term vision for the Scrubs.
Thank you very much. Stephen.
I'd like to say that planning for the long term is a really good thing to be doing, and it's something that has not much happened on the Scrubs in recent years. And I support all these main headings and look forward to working with the officers on them. I'd like to add one thing, that in 4 years' time, the Scrubs Act will celebrate 150 years of the Scrubs as a charitable trust. And I think you might be working towards that as a date for celebration, publicity, whatever else it can be effectively used for.
Thank you very much. Very nice. Thank you. Councillor Kwan.
I think that I think we're all generally agreed that the Scrubs is really unique, and but I think it suffers from being a bit of a local secret. And I think long term, what I'd be great to see is if you say something like Hampstead Heath or close to home, someone like Wimbledon Common, people immediately know what the nature of those things are. They know that they're kind of rough. It's not the kind of park that you'd go and expect, and sort of polished corners and so on. And I think with the Scrubs, I think I want to do it without using the word marketing, but I think a lot of the time when you mention the Scrubs, people go, "Oh, the prison," and they don't think. I'm sure we've all had that where we talk about it, and then if you put the Wormwood Scrubs into Google, again you get the prison straight up. So I think I'm sure with people coming into the area, they will look online. They will, even if it's just for information, like when does it open and when does it close, and so on. So I think that there is some basic, I'm going to use the word branding, but that that kind of work. And I don't want to sound like a horrible kind of marketing person, but I think there is something of that needs to be going on. You need to sort of tell a story about what it is, because we all know what it is locally, but I'd say 90% of the population thinks of the prison, and I think that it will be helpful also to just establish what kind of space it is if we lead in telling the story. So yeah, look forward to working on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Osama, did you want to come back on that? Then we'll go to Faye.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, just a point really to say that contingent on approving these themes, I've already started talking to our comms team about how we can become more external facing. And, Councillor Corn, I think you make a really, really important point in making the Scrubs more of a destination, more of a celebration of the kind of uniqueness of the space. And so, if it speaks to its various designations, it's, the Act is a very unique tool that not that many other public spaces have. It offers a lot of opportunity, and that means that we have to be quite careful about the way that we promote, say, or market the space. But at the same time, it offers a lot of benefit to how kind of people could interact with nature and interact with recreation and exercise. So if we do approve these themes, and I hope we do, I will begin that work to start that website. That obviously lends itself to then becoming more of a fundraising ready organisation as well. So our ambitions around accessibility improvements, around hosting more community initiatives on the space, becoming more external facing in general, that will lend itself hopefully to some better outcomes for the Trust.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. Faye.
You sort of just said it, but I think this ties into, once again, the issue which we raised before of the Scrubs not having its own dedicated website like wormwoodscrubs.com or something. Maybe that's the prison, I don't know, I haven't actually searched. And actually in the past, when the Friends have been contacted by the press in previous sort of lobbying campaigns, particularly around the HS2 stuff, we've had to be the ones distributing information about the history, the ecology, the user groups of the scrubs, and because people are relying on Wikipedia and like, you know, obscure web pages. And we have a website with a lot of information on it, but we are volunteers with very limited time, and it's a big undertaking to actually put together everything, because there's some amazing projects that have happened in the past, well, even in the past like 40 years, like the work of not David and Lester Holloway in particular. And it would be really great if that stuff was put somewhere, not just on the Friends website, but on something that was operated by the council officers as well. Anyway, I mean, I know you're on it, but it's super important.
Thank you. Wonderful. Great. Lots of enthusiasm. Lovely. Is this approved? Wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing the next iteration. Thank you very much. Slightly going all over the place. Linford Christie Sports Stadium Capital Programme. Simon, can we come to you, please?
Yes, good evening. Just bringing you an update on the three main capital elements that we're delivering at Linford Christie at the moment. The first project was the changing room demolition and replacement with the temporary Portakabin buildings that are providing new changing rooms and toilet and showering facilities for the users of both Wormwood Scrubs and the new artificial pitches and the athletics track. The final element of this scheme is the installation of the community room, which has started already and should be completed by the end of this month. And there will also be additional spectator toilet facilities provided alongside the community room. And planning permission for these temporary units is in place for the next 2 years. The second phase or main part of the programme is the artificial pitch resurfacing. This is a 26-week work programme which commenced on the 20th of January and working with Kensington Dragons Football Club. The existing artificial pitches have been stripped away and work has happened to level the surface, construct new drainage channels and establish new foundations to erect a new boundary fencing taking place until the middle of April. We're also hoping to include the new floodlighting for the athletics track as part of the new floodlights going up for the artificial pitches at the same time within this scheme, offering a cost saving and enable faster completion of both elements of the capital programme. And the artificial pitches are due to complete by towards the end of July. If we stick to the programme, and the good weather we're having at the moment is enabling good progress to continue. The third and final element of the main capital improvements at Linford Christie is the resurfacing of the athletics track and associated field events. And we're working with Alliance Leisure through the UK Leisure Framework to deliver these improvements, working with the similar contractors that are delivering the pitch improvements, Sports Surfacing Limited and Hunts, one of their contractors who will deliver the Polytan track resurfacing project as well. Officers are working in close contact with Thames Valley Harriers Athletics Club to ensure inconvenience is minimalised, but we have to deliver these works at the appropriate temperatures to ensure the surface sets correctly, which is obviously during the main or part of the main athletics season and when we're busy with school sports days. We're hoping these works will complete in 6 to 8 weeks during the 26-week programme for the artificial pitches, so they'll run concurrently for about a 6 to 8 week period, and we hope to complete those ideally by the end of May, after half term, when the school sports days will take place, and then the main annual event for Thames Valley Harriers in July, August. Members are just to note that the construction of the hoarding around the perimeter of the site provides security for the new porta cabins and changing facilities and will remain in place for the duration of the planning period. We are looking to see, fortunately so far, touch wood, we haven't suffered from major graffiti on this area, but we're wondering whether the committee would like us to work with local artists to create murals depicting the scrubs and also sports activities and health and well-being benefits if the committee so chooses. And happy to work with that. Happy to take any questions on the update.
Thank you, Simon, and very pleased that this is all going to be opening in or just before the summer, so it can get maximum usage. Stephen.
This is all very good to hear. I'm sure we shouldn't just leave it for graffiti, but we should commission local artists or local schools or whatever's thought appropriate, but do something that will discourage graffiti, because 2 years is a long time for it to sit there otherwise. And secondly, could I congratulate somebody on the removal of the unused 4 sets of floodlights adjacent to the Gaelic football pitches about 3 years after Simon's predecessor agreed to do it. Thank you very much.
Happy to serve. Lovely. Any other questions or thoughts? Great. Well, I think this is all really good news and really positive. It has been a long time coming of moving lots of these projects forward, but having it back in a usable, workable condition feels great. So all very positive. Who knows, maybe we'll have a future meeting in the community room. Lovely, thank you. Vicky, we're going to come back to you for the play area.
Yeah, this is Braybrook Street play area extension. This is to ask committee to approve a budget to extend the range of play equipment at Braybrook Street play area to create a high quality destination play space. The proposal is to install one large scale dynamic and challenging piece of equipment made predominantly from wood for older children, with the proposal being to locate that in the northeast corner of the play area that is currently open grassland. In addition, the proposal includes smaller items for younger children to include another set of swings and items for imaginative play. The budget will also need to fund new safety surfacing, installation and delivery costs. It's also proposed that both of the areas, north and south, are fenced with a 1 metre high wooden fence to provide a safe dog-free play space. This is supported by a consultation that was carried out in 2024 when 68% of respondents requested a fenced play area. It's also proposed to extend the path from Braybrook Street further into the play area to improve accessibility as recommended in the access audit carried out on the scrubs in 2024. So the programme for tendering the work will need to be discussed with procurement, and an update will be provided at the next committee meeting. The overall timescale for delivery may also be impacted by the need to apply for planning permission if the equipment is over 4 metres in height. So therefore, committee are asked to approve a budget of £198,300 to implement the improvements. If approved, 150,000 of that will be from the Trust's 25-26 budget, and there'll be an additional 48,300 from Section 106.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions, Faye? I know you've been heavily involved in this already. Anything you'd like to ask or add?
No, just really excited that it's got to this point, and yeah, very, very positive. And also about regarding the planning permission, if the option for the large scale equipment happens to be a pirate ship, suppliers can custom make them so that they are under 4 metres so that one doesn't have to apply for planning permission. And they have been in touch to clarify, but I know nothing's been decided.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you so much for your engagement with it. I think what we were thinking of is maybe doing it in 2 phases, of having some bigger stuff that if we do need to get planning permission, fine, but we'll have some smaller stuff coming in sooner than that, so that we can have something that's really cool that people want to come and use. But thank you so much for your work. Lovely. Is that approved? Great, wonderful. On to the final item. This is a very weird ordering report, sort of ricocheting round from positive to community safety, which may be positive. Osama, on to you for this item.
Thank you very much, Chair. So unfortunately, we don't have any let officers with us tonight, but I will give a brief update on their community safety report. So between the end of November and the end of February, 107 high visibility patrols were recorded. That's roughly 1.1 patrols a day. And these were conducted across the estate with a total of 296 interactions, with 2 instances of fly tipping that were removed and investigated, and 1 instance of dog fouling, which was recorded and removed. Since issuing a community protection notice warning to Karma Canine and a community protection notice to Kensington Canine Club, We've seen a reduction in PSPO-related dog offences. That's the PSPO on responsible dog walking. That's to say that non-compliance is still a challenge, and we welcome the support of local users in helping Let identify instances of a breach. And we also urge all local residents who are keen to connect with their local ward officers to do so directly via the contact information provided in the management report.
Thank you very much. Faye and Stephen. Faye, I'll come to you first.
I just wanted to feed in. It says in the report that there have been no fines issued for dog PSPO violations. There's a few queries about that because there seem to have been quite a few violations over the period that have been observed, and also that there's concern from users of scrubs that we don't often see the high visibility patrols, and they're not massively visible. And it would be nice if they were more visible.
Thank you. That is a point that I'll take on board and I'll relay to the Let team. I think, to be honest, it's always going to be difficult to enforce the PSPO. However, we do need to demonstrate that there is a bit more of a proactive approach in terms of making sure that if there are designated organisations that aren't licensed and that are repeat offenders, then they are brought to heel and they are punished accordingly. That's where the kind of engagement with local people is really key. So if we've got any information on the names of these companies, then that is really, really helpful to feed into the Let, and they can be more proactive in kind of issuing those fixed penalty notices. The challenge that they have there is that they can't issue a fixed penalty notice unless they see non-compliance. So they might get a report that a company is acting out of sorts, but they have to see it happening on the scrubs in order to be in line with the law in terms of enforcing the PSPO. But I can definitely relay that to the Let team.
Thank you. Stephen and then Councillor Kwon.
Yes, about a week or 10 days ago, at least daily scrubs user, my colleague on the Friends Trustees, Emma Ransom, was set upon, not physically, but very threateningly, by two walkers with a total of 12 dogs to whom she had remonstrated. She reported this to the LET and copied Simon and I think Osama, and who responded immediately. She has not heard anything from the LET, which rather raises a question about their ability to respond or their willingness to respond. She provided license plate numbers of their unmarked vans, and I hope that this is being followed up because their behaviour was definitely, according to her, threatening. And I think those of you who know Emma will say she is not easily intimidated, but she was made very nervous by this whole event. And my second question is that on previous circulations as to how to report things to the LET, we've been encouraged to use a email address called let_northwards@lbhf, which no longer appears on this list. And I'd welcome clarification on which of all these different email addresses should be used. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm really sorry to hear that. That sounds really threatening for Emma. I think in that sort of incident, we would expect that to be reported to the police rather than the law enforcement team. Obviously, the police are just as responsible for enforcing PSPOs, but if it crosses the line into threatening or intimidating behaviour, that is very much a police matter. So I hope that has also been sent on. If you could pass that on to Emma, and please send us support her way as well. We can absolutely get clarity on which of the contact details we should be using for the law enforcement team, as well as other agencies, and make sure that's circulated. And we'll follow up on the incident as well, just to make sure that the Let have noted it. But thank you. Councillor Kwon.
Thank you. Yes, just about the Let officers. Obviously, they're not here to kind of talk about their work, although I'm sure Osama can fill in sort of how he works with them on some of these issues. What I would say is that maybe in the future it might be interesting when they provide the information for this report, if they could include sort of what their like how often they are on the scrubs, because obviously we often hear that they're not visible and so on. My experience of them, especially the regular officers who work in and around the scrubs, is that they're there very, very frequently. But obviously it might be at, you know, they're not regular times, and obviously they don't stick to a routine because they need to visit at different times in order to sort of catch people doing different things. If they could, it doesn't necessarily need to be a numbered thing of like, you know, we went this many times, but as I said, as far as I understand, the regular officers visit very frequently, if not daily. So if we could just ask them to maybe insert a comment on sort of how sort of, you know, how often they're there and so on. And I think that the contact details, there is some confusion. At one point there was a phone number, but I don't know whether that still is operational. So if we could just clarify that, and then everyone knows the best way to contact them.
Thank you. I think in the report, which I now very helpfully can't find, there might have been a detail of frequency of patrol. Was that the 1.1?
Sorry if I missed that.
Yeah. So that they do tend to state the frequency of patrols and 107 high visibility patrols since the previous committee, and then they had 296 interactions. So you can see the high visibility patrols in the top of the table in the report that they've given, and then the total.
For some reason I thought that was something else. Okay, thank you. And that's over that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we are doing more than, you know, just sort of instructing the let to turn up at certain times of the day. So we're using this platform called Active Exchange to have a view over where the high footfall areas are on the scrubs, and to take a view on where the kind of most popular access routes are. So what we're able to do is to help the let have a bit more of a proactive approach. We can kind of take an aggregated view of, you know, what's the most busy time of day, at which entrances, and when can they station themselves in particular areas strategically to make sure that they can kind of catch non-compliant dog walkers. The heat maps that we get from that platform don't necessarily indicate that's a dog walker, that's a runner, that's a football player, but they do kind of give you the level of attendance there.
Yeah.
So the hotter it is, the redder it is, the higher the number of people. You also need a mobile phone to be captured by that data. So unless dogs start carrying mobile phones, it won't be that easy to trace that back. But I think there's definitely some more work that we need to be doing around being a bit more proactive, and also in terms of the engagement between let officers. I know that Alfie, who's the senior officer for the area, is very, very, very keen to connect more with local residents, and it's about building those connections and making sure that, you know, people feel confident enough to give them a call or send them an email when they see that non-compliance, and also just understanding the limitations. You know, if we have any threatening behaviour on the let or on the scrubs in general, that's a Met issue, and that really needs to be going to 999.
Thank you very much. All right. Anything else on community safety? Fine. All right. I think we've gone through and approved all the. Oh, Stephen. Stephen, I'm not sure if that was a hand up, but can't hear any.
Thank you. Sorry, I was failing to unmute. To thank Simon for circulating on the chat the correct communications. That is a change then from what we were previously told, which we will circulate to all the friends.
Fine. You can see that it's in the papers. I can see it's in the papers of how to contact, and there's also the Old Oak College Park _Northwoods at lbhf.gov.uk.
Those are changes, Chair, from
Right.
what we previously advised to use.
Okay.
So, yeah, we will do that. Thank you.
But that looks like they're all within the papers as well. So if people are not,
very much.
They can also see them in the papers for this evening's meeting. Thank you. Simon.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to confirm the number is the generic number, and it goes to an automated message, which is picked up 24/7 with the access control, and that's the generic email address that I've put in. But they have provided, as you quite correctly stated, the new email address is in the ward report and is a slightly longer and different address to what we had previously been given. So I'll take the officers that's theirs. But if any doubt, always go back to the original let.hf@lbhf.gov.uk, and that will be picked up. And we do encourage everybody to report every instance, because that builds up a profile and a time of when they can then adjust their patrols accordingly to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, fine. Item 5, dates of future meetings. Note the date of future meetings, which is the 18th of June, 2025, when we hope it will be even sunnier than today. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, for attending this evening. Lovely to see you all. And